In this video,
you threatened my life, you If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, God damn it, I'm not.
this is Alan McCarty, who was arrested and charged after making death threats toward a judge involved in a child custody case.
Yeah, I want to report a crime that's about to happen. Yeah, there's about to be a crime that's going to happen if my kids don't come back to me, you stupid bitch. And you stupid judges don't want to bring people to courtroom.
The judge had ruled against McCarty, taking away his children, which led to his erratic behavior towards the judge continuing into his court appearances.
You f***ing Back room. Suck my d***.
After being found guilty of the original threats made against the judge, he was moved to another room to watch the court proceedings through a one-way glass, where he continued to cause a disturbance. McCarty was ultimately sentenced to 20 years in prison, with the judge also issuing an additional 10-day sentence due to his behavior in the courtroom. This is Erica Butts and Shanita Cunningham, who were both charged with homicide by child abuse in Somerville, South Carolina. The child, only 3 years old, died from injuries that reflected weeks of torture. After both women were found guilty, the judge proceeded to deliver their sentences. They were each sentenced to life in prison. Butts and Cunningham are reportedly serving their life sentences in separate prisons. This is Webb, who faces 2 counts of attempted murder in Lexington, Kentucky. Security camera footage shows Webb trying to run over 2 employees at a jail where he had recently served time. At his first court appearance, the judge was set to recuse herself from the trial because she knew the 2 employees involved. Now Webb is about to stun the courtroom. He spits on the judge. The judge wipes away the spit and promptly expels him from the courtroom. He was charged with the murder of 2 different girlfriends. He was found guilty of killing the first girlfriend, and now he's on trial for the second. Webb arrived in court with a tattoo on his head listing people he intended to kill, with 3 rats crossed out at the bottom. Throughout the trial, Webb displayed no remorse, and the jury convicted him. The judge sentenced Webb to life in prison for his crimes. This is Darrell Brooks, who was convicted of killing 6 people and injuring dozens more after driving his SUV into a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Brooks reached speeds of over 30 miles per hour, with the prosecution arguing that his driving rampage was intentional. After being arrested and charged, Brooks chose to represent himself in court.
At this point, Your Honor, who doesn't know that I'm in custody?
Throughout the trial, he was repeatedly removed for constant interruptions and outbursts.
I didn't hear what they said. I just put the headphones on, so I didn't even hear what she said.
His true personality emerged when he was seen laughing during a witness's testimony. Brooks had another outburst, this time triggered by his displeasure with how the district attorney pronounced the word defendant.
I would like to provide the defendant and...
That had to be said, the defendant. I got one ear that worked and I heard that.
Clearly frustrated, Brooks then decided to engage in a stare-down with the judge.
I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare-down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared.
The jury swiftly found Brooks guilty of all 76 charges against him, and he was sentenced to 6 life terms, plus an additional 700 years in prison. This is Diana Lovejoy, who was once married to Greg Mulvey while living in Carlsbad, California, plotted to kill her ex-husband with the help of her boyfriend, Weldon McDavid. Diana fainted in court, lowering her head toward the defense table for a few seconds, which hushed the courtroom except for the sounds of her family crying in the background.
At one point, Diana Lovejoy completely passed out.
She was then brought to the floor. Doctors later determined she had merely fainted. Weldon McDavid was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison for pulling the trigger, while Diana received a 26-year to life sentence. This is Franklyn Williams, who was convicted of multiple felonies, including armed robberies and fleeing the police in Cleveland, Ohio. He was eventually arrested and convicted. At his sentencing, Williams refused to stop talking despite receiving more than a dozen warnings from the judge. This led the judge to order Williams's mouth to be taped shut. Despite all the interruptions, The judge proceeded to hand down Williams' sentence. After receiving a 24-year prison sentence, the judge later apologized for using duct tape and vacated the sentence. A new judge was appointed, who then sentenced Williams to 33 years behind bars. This is Joel Delgado, faced multiple charges. During his arrest, Delgado claimed he was injured and was therefore taken to a hospital. A sheriff's deputy is escorting Delgado into the courthouse to face his charges. But just before they enter, Delgado loses one of his shoes.
Hey, you see a shoe back there? Where is it?
This might serve as a distraction for his escape plan. Despite being in a neck brace and wheelchair, which suggest he can't walk, Delgado manages to bolt across the street and down an alley.
Oh, I'm gonna catch you, baby. I'm gonna shoot your bitch ass.
The deputy seems to lose track of him and searches the streets for the suspect. The deputy returns to the front of the courthouse and informs his colleagues of the situation.
Hey, he took off, man. The wheelchair dude ran. Yeah.
As he was captured a few hours later,
He took off? Yeah, right straight up this street. Oh, yeah, man.
he again claimed to be injured and unable to walk, and has reportedly pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. This is Jaleel Smith Riley, appearing in a Cincinnati, Ohio courtroom. Police report that he confessed to a robbery that resulted in the death of a 20-year-old woman and the severe injury of her boyfriend. Now, Portia Brooks' mother delivers a victim impact statement. Following her, Brooks' sister speaks. These are the moments just before Jaleel Smith Riley receives the news that he will never be allowed to return home again.
As to count for the offense of attempted murder.
This is John Bunn, who spent 27 years wrongfully convicted of murder. Living in Brooklyn, New York, Bunn was just 14 years old when he was arrested by NYPD detective Louis Scarcella. Bunn subsequently spent 16 years behind bars and 11 years on parole, all the while fighting to prove his innocence. His conviction was overturned due to the misconduct of Detective Scarcella. After 27 long years of battling to clear his name, he was finally exonerated. Before leaving the courtroom, he shared a moment with the judge. This is Ronnie O'Neal, a suspect in a double murder case from Riverview, Florida. O'Neal fatally shot his then-girlfriend, Kenyatta Barron. Following this, he murdered their 9-year-old daughter by striking her multiple times with a hatchet. O'Neal also stabbed their 8-year-old son before dousing the house with gasoline and setting it on fire. O'Neal was arrested. The first 911 call about the incident came from the girlfriend.
I think I got gunshots fired at 4365. Now I'm hearing music.
Who was heard screaming before abruptly hanging up. 8 minutes later, another call was made by O'Neal.
What is your emergency?
Hey, I just been attacked by some white demons inside Kiki. Kiki, her name is Kiki, and she tried to kill me.
After his arrest, O'Neal was deemed psychologically fit to represent himself in court. O'Neal also accused the prosecution of fabricating evidence.
Better believe it. If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, goddamn it or not.
Upon being found guilty, the judge described the case as the worst she had ever seen.
This is the worst case I have ever seen as far as the facts go.
O'Neal claimed he was not sorry for his actions.
I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do.
Sentenced to 3 life terms plus 90 years without the possibility of parole. As for O'Neal's son, he was adopted by the detective who cared for him the night of the murders. This is Andrea Cook, who has been found guilty of carjacking charges in Volusia County, Florida. The 18-year-old Cook and her then 17-year-old boyfriend used a dating app to arrange a carjacking. In court, Cook now stands before the judge for her role in the theft and shooting. You can hear Cook's mother crying in the background. Cook's sentence was later reduced to 11 years in prison. This is Scott Nelson, who is currently facing charges of first-degree murder for killing a nanny in Orlando, Florida. After serving a 25-year prison sentence for bank robbery, Nelson was released. Nelson broke into a home where a nanny was working as a caregiver. He kidnapped her, forced her into the trunk of his car. Nelson then drove to a secluded area where he brutally stabbed her to death, abandoning both her body and the car before being arrested. He showed no emotion and eventually confessed to the murder.
Who killed Jennifer Fulford?
I did.
Ultimately, Nelson was convicted of first-degree murder and received a life sentence in prison.